Hi, everybody. This is Love Him, Love Them with Linda Gunner, where we give hope, touch lives, and change hearts. That's what God does. He gives hope. He's able to touch your life. And if you will listen today until the end of this broadcast, I can guarantee you 100%, I'll give you all your money back that you're paying to watch, that your life will be changed. I want to make sure you are aware that we have a brand new book out. Now, listen, if you don't have our last book yet, it'll flop up here somewhere. Miracles with Mommy Linda. You need to get that book. If you don't think miracles still happen today, just read it. And none of those miracles took place in Haiti. They're all here in the United States. I know a lot of people think, yeah, miracles only happen in third world countries. But that devotional is amazing. And then our new book that's coming out now is How to Really Get What You Want from Him. Girls, if you're looking at that for your husbands, from him, her, guys, if you want to figure out how to get what you really want from your wife, them, if you're trying to figure out how to get those kids to do what you tell them to do when you tell them to do it. And that, all of you that are scrolling through, looking at pornography, trying to get that from that next pound cake, that food, whatever it is you're looking for to get that true satisfaction, this book is going to tell you exactly how to really do that. So please go to the website, lovehimlovethem.org, and make sure you take care of that. Now, listen, the guest we have today is absolutely phenomenal. She's one of the wisest, smartest, most stylish women I know. And the wisdom that she's going to be able to impart for you, you do not want to go until the very end. I can promise you that. So I want you to jump up and down on your couch, put your hands together, and help me welcome one of my very, very good friends, Neal. So Inger, welcome to the studio in the big city of, I really don't know if we're in Royston or Franklin Springs, kind of like on the border. Ooh. Or let's don't talk about the border. Okay, so segue right in.
Right.
So thank you so much for coming today. You are an amazing woman. You are currently, if I'm not mistaken, working with people who have disabilities to be able to get them into the workforce. Is that correct?
That
Are we
is
still
correct.
doing that?
Yes.
That's got to be extremely rewarding.
It is. It is an amazing job. And when you were talking about miracles, I get to see so many amazing miracles happening real time, real lives, going through those experiences, people doing things that they never thought they'd be able to do, dealing with people who for so much of their life have been told what they could not do, you know, and to see them in their element, to see them in employment, to see them living lives that they never thought were possibilities is absolutely an amazing thing to go through. And I get to do that.
And you're all over the place doing it.
I am.
Here, there, the other place. Yeah.
Everywhere.
One of the most corporately involved women I know. I mean, she can get you in touch with the CEO of this and the COO of that, like in no time. So yeah, you got it going on. That is for sure. So you are, how many kids do you have? Every time I see you, I mean, I think now I know how people feel when they see me, like, how many people does she have living in that house? So what do you have? You've got littles and bigs and everything.
I tell you what, when we say it takes a village,
you are the village.
The village may live at my house, not seriously, but 2 biological children, right?
Okay, just 2.
We just had 2, but my husband was like, we had to stop at 2 for all the ones that she was going to take or adopt, right?
Got it.
So I have 2 that I have by birth, but I have so many children that I love on, and I call them my value-added children, right?
Sounds a lot nicer than what I call them. But anyway, I'm going to take value added.
Right.
Okay, go ahead.
The value added ones are the ones who we get to just love on. We do have one that I looked at my husband one day and I said, honey, I think he lives here now. Because it was just little by little, he
transitioning.
Exactly. And we're just like, wait a minute, does he? And so we went and we looked in the room and I was like, well, there's clothes in the closet and there's clothes in the drawers. So I think he lives here.
That's crazy.
Okay. So
who are those cute littles that I always like Christmas
the cute
last year?
Ones?
Yeah, they're
those
so adorable.
Those were my grandchildren.
They're so adorable.
They are. So my daughter was nice enough to have the twins that I always wanted for me, right? So I have boy-girl twins, and then we have Isaiah the latest. So it's Matthew, Victoria, who are the twins, and then Isaiah. So those were the little ones, tied to my leg, running around at Christmas. So,
right.
So much fun.
And your husband has one of the most interesting businesses in the world, right?
He does.
So people that do what your husband do, I find, have the most amazing personalities and the best sense of humor, which most people would never think in this industry that exists.
Yes.
But I happen to have a sister-in-law that also does what he does. And so I know what happens behind closed doors, and I'll leave it at that. So tell us a little bit about what your husband's business.
He is my husband's a mortician. He's a funeral director. They, for years, owned and operated 2 funeral homes. And now they have 1 funeral home in Toccoa, Georgia. That's Moss Stovall Neal. And
Say it again slower.
Moss Stovall Neal.
Okay, so if you're dying or dead or near death, give us a call, right?
Okay. That's it. MSN, call Moss Stovall Neal. Yes, they're in Toccoa, Georgia. And he's been doing this. It's a family business. So he's been in this industry literally all of his life.
Right. And I think the funniest story I've ever heard about that funeral home is that you got fired.
I did.
You are not allowed to work there because of a pair of pantyhose.
Well, see, he says, I didn't fire you. I just said I'll call you if I need you. Right? And there's not been a call in probably in the last 15 years. So
it cracks me up.
I think at this point.
So the story I remember was you were supposed to be there. You were supposed to be doing something. You got to run in your pantyhose. Am I remembering this correct?
What had happened was I was assisting him on a funeral service. Right?
And you made an executive decision.
And I did. I was driving one of the cars for him. I was in between jobs at the time, so I was driving one of the cars for him, and I had to run in my pantyhose. So we got the family to the funeral. They're in the church.
Yeah.
Like they're in
what
the
else
church.
is there to do?
Exactly. And I'm like, well, the store is just like a mile.
Right.
Up
I
the
hear you.
road.
I would have done the same
so
thing.
I just said, he's inside. I said, let me just run, get a pair of pantyhose, come back. Nobody will ever know that I wasn't there, right? So I left. I'm in the car. I'm in the car that I'm driving. Drive to the little convenience store, get the pantyhose, come right back,
And you got caught.
Changed really quick. And I'm thinking, okay, I'll go into the bathroom, change really quick, and I'll be back in the car. No one will ever know. They'll never know, right? So I leave, I come back, and when I pull into the church parking lot, who do I see standing outside the door?
He's man of mine.
There, and he says, where have you been? I said, literally, I was only gone 5 minutes. He said, I've been standing here 10. And I'm like, but I had to run in my pantyhose. I needed to go get pantyhose.
He didn't care.
Nobody's looking at you.
That's when you get, if I need you, I'll call you. How long have you guys been married?
We have actually been married 36 years.
Oh, wow. That's more than me.
Yeah.
We're doing 30 this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Oh,
I waited till I was, I'm 24 now. I think I waited till I was 31 to get married. It's the new math. I don't know if you can figure that out.
Right.
Yeah. So, I really didn't see the reson to get married because I was pretty well off on my own, and I just figured, but then I thought maybe he could take the trash out. And
wash a dish, take me to dinner, something like that.
So 36 years.
36
wow.
years.
I bet you could write a book.
It has been
on how to stay married.
Amazing journey. It really, really has been. But we were arranged when I was 3.
Really?
Yeah. I had that mom, right? When we were 3, and this is why we were arranged when I was 3 years old, right? So they're having a funeral at the church that I grew up in.
All about the funerals, isn't it?
You know what?
You've been around dead people your whole life. Right?
Yes, right? Who knew, right? So we're having a funeral at the church I grew up in. And for their funeral home, it's customary for an hour before to bring the body for anyone who wants to view, right?
Okay, yeah.
So the body's in the church, and I'm sitting in the church with the body, sitting there.
At 3? 3 years
old? At 3.
Okay.
Right. There's no one else in the sanctuary but me, right?
Oh, wow.
And the body. And I'm sitting there looking at the flowers. I'm not touching them. I'm just sitting there looking at the flowers. So basically, his dad comes up and sees me and says, okay, there's no one here. Why is this little girl sitting in here? She's not touching anything. She's just sitting here, right? It was the quietest place in the church.
Well,
like
sure.
everywhere else was noisy.
Right.
So I was sitting in there. So he picks me up, and I'm just mesmerized by his eyes, right? Beautiful brown eyes. So I'm mesmerized by his eyes. So he picks me up and he takes me back into the dining hall where the ladies were preparing the repast for after the service, right? So he picks me up, takes me into the dining hall, and he says, "Does this little girl belong to someone?"
Oh.
And my mom says, "Oh, Inger, was she doing something? What was wrong?" He was like, "No, she was just sitting there, And she was like, "Okay, yes, that's my daughter." And he said, "How old is she?" She says, "She's 3." And he says, "Oh, I have a son her age. She'd make him a good wife one day."
And there you have it.
And there you have it. I said, "Mama, do you know how many people he probably said that to?"
It wasn't
Are you
really.
kidding me? Seriously?
He was looking at age 3, right?
Right. And she was like, "But you let him touch you. Like, you let him pick you up." She said, "You never do that."
Oh.
And, evidently I was that child too, right?
So there's your father-in-law.
Hey, there's my father-in-law at 3, right? And
Wow.
I'm like, "Really?" So from then on, she was like, "Okay, this is who you're going to marry. There's no need to date. There's no need to do any of that stuff because
so funny.
this is going to be your husband one day." And I'm just like, but literally all of my life, I'd never dated. Any date that I ever went on was, created and directed by my mom.
Wow.
And the only date I ever went on, other than when I went out with him, was my junior prom. And the parents arranged that, right? So I didn't know
This
who
is
I was
all in
going to prom
America,
with.
right?
Exactly.
I'm just making sure.
Yes,
Okay.
in Franklin County.
Yeah, that doesn't happen around here.
Girl.
Wow.
My mama, right? So, yeah.
So 36 years. So anybody that can be married for 36 years needs to write a book. So has it been complete joy? Has it been, you obviously have 2 kids, all these other kids in. I'm sure everything has been perfect and just been.
I wish that was my story.
Uh-huh.
That is not.
Wow. But you're still together.
But
after
we are
36
still
years.
together.
How do you explain that?
It has been, it really has been a journey. And it's been by the grace of God.
Okay.
And I always tell people, look, this is by the grace of God that neither one of us has hurt each other.
Right. That's why we don't have
each other out, right?
That's why we don't have guns in our house.
Right.
It's not going to be a good
None
idea.
at my house, right? So I would say we finally did meet. I didn't meet him until I was a senior in high school.
Oh, wow.
I had known about him all my life, never met him, couldn't tell you what he looked like, never seen him.
Interesting.
So senior in high school, I tell my sister, I said, I need to meet him. Like, I am so done with this. I'm a senior in high school, still never dated, right?
Oh, yeah.
I am so done with this, right? Senior in high school, I twist my sister's arm, you have to take me to meet him. So we met at church. She takes me to meet him, and after church, she points him out and everything. So I'm standing outside at church, and he walks up to me, and my sister says, "Inger, this is Jim. Jim, this is Inger." And I was like, "Hello." And he was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, I am so not impressed. This, really?
Okay.
Mom?
That's all you got?
Right.
Oh, my gosh.
And he tells a totally different story.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm not impressed. And he can tell you to this day the outfit that I had on.
Oh.
Where I was standing when we were introduced.
Yeah.
And he has a completely different story because all he said, he saw a vision. He was like, "Oh, my God.
Well,
she
this is it.
so stacked up."
Oh, stacked up. Okay.
That was his rendition of it.
So maybe that's what's held us together for 36 years, huh?
Yes. And I was like, really? I was like, did you even know what my face looked like? Because I don't think you made it up that high. But anyway, so he says, "Can I get your number?" And I said, "It's in the book."
Oh, wow. Nobody's going to know what that means, but okay.
Right. It was in the phone book. And I'm like, okay. So you could tell I was really not feeling this, right? But I had years of resentment built up against him because I couldn't live my life.
Oh, because everybody said that's who you were going to marry, period.
Exactly. So this is all I've known. I was chaperoned. I was never left alone. Couldn't go anywhere. Never spent the night with friends because, I had to be protected and, So I did not like this dude. I was like, I am not going to like him. He has ruined my life. Blah,
Interesting.
Blah. So he calls. He says, "Would you like to go out?" And I'm like, sure, let's just get this over with so I can not like you and I can tell my mom and I can live my life, right? So we go out, first date, and my mom was just really trying to make this so meaningful, right? First date, and she says, oh, you have to have a chaperone. You have to take your younger brother.
Lovely.
My annoying younger brother.
Which they all are, yeah.
Oh, my God. So we go, my brother's in the car. He is laughing his butt off. He is having the best time. So we go to the movies. We get there. He's telling everybody, this is our first date. I'm here to chaperone. Really? Seriously? Shut up. I am so going to kill you. You're going to die in your sleep tonight, right? So we get through the first date and he says, would you like to go out again? And I'm like, please go away.
Wow.
But he was persistent. He was just like, yeah. So second date, he says, I'm going to marry you one day. And I'm like, let's see how that works out for you, dude.
Right. So how long from that comment until marriage? Oh,
gosh. We dated 4 years.
Okay. So did David and I.
So we dated 4 years. Like I said, it was our senior year in high school, right? College, we dated through college, and we got married the day before he graduated college.
Wow.
It's the craziest thing. Literally, I say I was his graduation present for college.
That's funny.
The gift that keeps on giving, right? So yeah, we got married the day before he graduated college, and it has been an interesting journey. Prior to getting married, my first real encounter that made me really dig into my faith.
Were you a believing believer?
Yes.
Before you got married?
Oh gosh.
Okay.
My family grew up in the church. Had a lot of siblings. It's the largest 10 of us, right? So of course you have 10 black children. You have to have a choir or a basketball team, one or the other. So we had a choir. Traveled around, yes.
Wow, I didn't know that.
We sung all over, everywhere. You know, all of us sung. So.
So I interrupted you. So now go back to
my first encounter. I was going to technical college, right? And my sister, her job required that she work late at night, right? And the team that normally goes to help her wasn't going to be available that night. So I had already worked my day. I'd already gone to school that day. But she says, hey, can you just come help me tonight? And I was like, okay, great. So she woke me up so I could go and help her. And so on the way to her job from where we live in Franklin County, and her work was in Commerce. So I get in the car and I was like, just wake me up when we get there, right? So I get in the car. She had a little silver Chevette. Probably don't even know what that is anymore, but it's little, like a Mini Cooper.
Right.
It's small like a Mini Cooper, right? And so we're on our way to her job. We get to an intersection. I'm asleep and I'm hunched down. And we got hit by a Philadelphia feeder truck on my side of the car.
Wow.
So it ate that little car up,
yeah,
and spit it out.
Right.
And
so how are you still alive?
By the grace of God. It is literally by the grace of God.
Right.
Of course, I was asleep, so I don't remember anything. But from the impact on my side of the vehicle, she was able to get out. And for me, this was my first experience ever with out of body, right? So I am watching it like I'm watching a movie scene.
Wow, so near-death experience.
Yes, and it was just like
you're asleep, but you're watching it.
I'm
from
asleep,
out of your body.
but I'm watching it, right? And I'm looking down. I'm watching the scene. I see her get out of the car. I see her frantically screaming my name, trying to get me out. She goes to, there's a house across the street there for the intersection, and she goes, and the lady from the impact, the guy driving the truck is out of the truck saying, I didn't see them. I didn't see them. I didn't see them. The lady runs out. She heard it. She says, my husband's calling 911. My sister's just, going berserk, of course, right?
Yeah.
So I hear the sirens come in. But all of this time, I'm watching this happen, and I'm talking to my brother who had passed away years prior.
Stop it.
Yes. And so I'm talking to my brother, and I always say he's my favorite. And he passed away when I was probably 8 or 9 years old. And he had an inoperable brain tumor that slowly he just passed away, right? At home, right? And so I'm talking to him, and I'm like,
you're talking to your brother. You're watching the scene of the accident. You see your sister. You hear the neighbor. You see the field day truck guy. You can see yourself sitting there out of it.
Well, I didn't even see my body.
Okay. Okay.
So I am just engrossed in all these things happening at the same time, right? So I'm talking to my brother, and I said, "Oh my God, I missed you so much. It's so good to see you. I missed you so much." And he was like, "It's not your time." And I'm just ignoring that. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I miss you. I love you." And he was like, "It's not your time." And I'm like, "No, I want to stay with you. I miss you. It's not your time." And so the ambulance comes, they're working on the car. They literally had to cut me out of the car, like cut the door to get me out of the car. And they load me on the stretcher, and I'm still, he's like, "It's not your time." And I'm like, "But I want to stay with you, and it's not your time." And so they get me on the stretcher, and they're working with me.
Did you realize where you were to be talking with him? Did any of that calculate? Like, if I'm with him, I'm not there. So no, you're just
I was so excited to see him. I was so excited to talk to him. I was so excited, and I say see him, but it was just knowing that he's there. I don't see anything. It was just it was like
supernatural.
It really was. There was no space. There was no time. There was no nothing. It was just knowing of the presence.
Yeah.
I knew he was there. I knew he was there with me. I knew we were having a conversation like I'm talking to you right now, right? Wow. Then I hear it's a faint pulse, and I hear we can't keep her, and so they're doing CPR, and so they're working on me. I remember at one point I saw the lights in the top of the ambulance, and they're, and I hear them say, "She keeps going out. She keeps going out," right? So they're working on me, get me to the hospital. At this point, it's like everything is just dark, right? So I get to the hospital, and they finally get me regulated, right? And they're like, "This was a battle," right? So I get there, I regain consciousness in the emergency room. My mom is there in the emergency room with me. So I regain consciousness, and the nurse says, "Inger?" And I said, "Yes." And she was like, "Do you know where you are?" And I was like, "No." And she said, "There's been an accident." And I said, "Oh my God, was anybody hurt?"
Wow.
So they're just looking at me like, "She gonna be all right."
Maybe.
Maybe, right?
Wow.
So I said that to say, Dim and I were dating. So my sister calls him, and this is probably 1, 2 in the morning at this time, right? So she calls his house, and his dad answers the phone, and she says, "Could I speak to Jim?" And he gives Jim the phone, and she tells him what has happened. And he said, "Inger, all I could do was go into my room and fall on my knees." And he said, "I have never prayed like I prayed that night." Wow. He said, "All I could say was, God, don't take her from me now. I just got her. Don't take her from me now." Right? So he prayed that prayer. And so I don't know if that prayer is happening when I'm saying, "I don't want to go back. I'm ready to be with you."
I believe
right?
100%. And the kingdom of heaven was brought down and said,
Yes. And he said, "It's not your time. It is not your time." Right? And so I come to in the hospital 3 days later. I've got a severe brain injury, traumatic brain injury, broken collarbone, fractures in my neck. So they're just like, "She's got to be real still." It's like, we don't know how she survived this, And they were like, "Well, thank God she was asleep. Because if she had been awake, for one, she would have been sitting up, and the way that the accident happened, where my head would have been on the car seat, there was a gash there, but because I was squunched down in the seat, my head wasn't there." And he said, had she been awake and sitting up,
we wouldn't be having this conversation.
We would not be having this conversation.
Right. So what did that do to increase your faith? Did that increase your faith based on the fact that Jim was praying? Did it increase your faith based on the fact that you were healed? How did that change, or did it change your relationship with Jesus?
Everything I had grown up being told about the Spirit, about higher power, about God, about spirituality was confirmed.
Wow.
There was no more guesswork for me.
Yeah.
I knew at that time. I said, this is all real. You know, I don't have to wonder, worry, think, maybe, sort of. No, I know for a definite fact that this is all real. I know that those we love that are not here, they're always with us.
Wow.
You know, and I'd always called my brother my guardian angel, right? When he passed away, I said, oh, I have a wonderful angel now.
Wow.
So I always knew, you know, I had a pretty strong faith because we were that family that was in church all the time. But everything I thought I knew, everything that I thought I felt was solidified in that experience.
Yeah.
I never doubted. I never feared. I always knew, you know, there is a God.
So one of your favorite verses is Jeremiah 29:11. Can you share with us what that verse says?
I know the plans that I have for you. My plans are to prosper you, right? And
you've lived that out.
I did. I lived that out. And he said, if you call on me, you just have to ask me. And that has been my scripture, you know. And I said, I know that this is real. I know that he is listening. I know that he is there. I know that those loved ones that I would love to have in the flesh with me, they are there in spirit. They're always with me, you know, and that's my reassurance. That's my comfort from day to day. I told my husband, we spent so much of our early married life dealing with dramas and traumas. And I've always been a little bit of a rebel to some degree, which may be why we get along so well. But anyway, but it was everything that I needed to continue this work, to continue my journey, was solidified that night, going through that experience. I wanted to finish school because I was in school. I wanted to finish school. I wanted to graduate with my class. And so the doctor agreed that I could go to school half a day. He said, because Inger, you can't fall. You can't get hit hard. You can't do any of those things or you're going to be paralyzed.
Wow.
From the neck down. Like, that's how serious your injuries are, right? But I wanted to. I had a desire. So my husband was going to school at Piedmont. I was going to North Georgia Tech. And when he left school every day, he'd come by and pick me up and take me home.
Wow.
Every day.
So to help you live out the plans and purpose of your life. So the rest of that verse is Jeremiah 29:11. I know the purpose and the plans that I have for you, not to harm you, but to give you a prosperous life and one of success. So Inger's story today should show you and confirm for you God can. I mean, if you're laying in a bed, you've got a brain tumor. If you fall or do anything wrong, you're going to be paralyzed. And look at her today. After 36 years of marriage, a healing and a miracle, a near-death experience, and yet God has chosen to prosper her the exact same way that he can prosper you. We look forward to seeing you at lovehimlovethem.org.